Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Home Sweet Homecast, episode 6, y'all. We are trucking along
Number
every single week.
6.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Pretty dang exciting.
Hard to believe
We're really,
already.
yeah, right. It's been like, it doesn't feel like we've done that many, but we have. Six feels like a big number. I don't know about you. 5 was like, okay, but like 6 is like, okay, we're doing this thing. Like, this is a thing
Yeah,
we are
yeah.
committing to. So, yeah.
You would kind of think we were like becoming professionals or something,
I
right?
mean,
Yeah.
you think that, I mean, you could see our setups. Obviously, we are doing our best to become the most influencer real estate agency ever with this podcast, right?
That's right. We're working on it.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, today we're excited. I'm actually extremely excited today. We are talking about one of my favorite topics, which is like first time home buyer. But really, this is for anybody who's ever wanted to buy a house in Fort Worth, Dallas, any of these areas, because what we are after today is hacks to do that well. How do we buy houses well? What's the process look like? And all this kind of stuff. So I love working with first time home buyers myself. It is just such a fun time to do that. It's fun to be kind of the educator that you step into in that when they haven't done a transaction before, they haven't bought a house before, and so you kind of get to teach about the process. And I really enjoy that because it's not necessarily, not everybody makes it clear cut in this whole thing, and
Right.
so it's nice
Right.
to be able
And
to
there are
bring
some
clarity.
hacks.
Yeah,
There really are some
exactly.
hacks to how to do this well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to talk about some of that today.
Yep. Yep. Good stuff. All right. Well, then we'll hop right in. Let's just talk specifically real quick and make a note before we jump in. Tips and tricks always depend on the market. So whether you're a buyer or seller, whatever you're going to do in this given market is going to depend directly on what kind of market it is. And so that could be a buyer market or a seller's market. That
Mhm.
depends on supply and demand. So keep that in mind. Um, you don't necessarily have to keep track of that unless you want to. If you don't want to keep track of that, just make sure you're using a realtor. And we've got a whole episode, I think it's episode
Mhm.
3, that talks all about how to pick a realtor because
Yeah.
they're going to help you know the market because that's their job. They should be knowing what's going on. They should know what's working in this market. And so
Right.
make sure you check
They
with a
can
realtor.
Yeah, they can run all the numbers, they can look at the statistics, and they can see how much inventory there is, and then they can also see how much demand that there is in the
Sure.
market.
Yeah. 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 Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. And every, we generalize DFW as, that's a large area, right? And so, especially if you want to get really specific into neighborhoods or at least cities, right? The
Right.
more specified you get, the more you're going to really need a real estate agent to really give you clarity on what's happening in that particular market. So, anyways, yep.
Absolutely.
So just keep that in mind as we go through all of this. Like, this is kind of one of those notes of like timeliness matters, right? So, at the time we're recording this, we're probably in we're kind of in a middle market. It's kind of
Mhm.
transitioning. We still have low inventory. Demand's kind of on its way up. And so we're kind of in that cross section where depending on the house, and the price range, it kind
Mhm.
of can go either way depending on what's going on.
Mhm. Yeah, because
But
this is being recorded in February of 2023.
yep,
So, right now we are starting to see the seasonality kind of move out of the market a little
yep,
bit. So, we've got pendings that are happening a little stronger in the last 2 weeks. So
yep,
that's a good sign. So that's
yeah,
making it seem like it was a really stronger buyer's market,
yeah,
but it's starting to soften up a little bit more towards sellers right now. So,
yeah.
but it's still a good time. It's mainly a good time to buy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially when you give like 2022 COVID market, like anything compared to that is better for buyers, no
Yeah.
matter what it is.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that was a mess. All right, so that's the note that to get out of the way. So let's talk first about what everybody, at least when I talk to them, cares the most about. What I cared the most about when I went through this process for my first time. Know your numbers. Hack number 1: know your numbers. So, Mom,
Absolutely.
how do people find out their numbers?
So the first place to get your numbers is going to be from a good lender.
Yeah,
So you want to make sure that you track down a really great lender who will take the time to explain to you how much your monthly payment's going to be and how
yeah,
much cash do you have to have at the closing table and what's your interest rate going to be.
sure.
So, a great lender is going to get it done on time. They're going to get it closed on time, and they're also going to educate you and be available for
Yeah,
communication with you.
yeah, and run the numbers like specifically for certain
Hmm.
price ranges you may be interested in
Right.
purchasing in. Certain houses. I mean, obviously, like every house can have different tax rates depending on the area, right? And so
Hmm.
they'll help you know specifically what you need to know for purchasing and wherever it is that you're interested in purchasing. So a
Yeah.
good lender is like step number one in all of this. I mean, good real estate agent's huge for sure, but a good
Hmm.
lender is just, I mean, almost like neck and neck with that. Like
Yeah,
they are
a lender can make or break a deal. I mean, they
literally,
can make it to where
literally,
you
yeah,
either win the offer or you
yeah,
lose it. So, yeah, you need to make sure you take time for a good lender, and you're gonna ask for, like, a fees sheet.
yeah,
So, yeah. Yeah.
yep. What's on a fee sheet? So let's talk about that. Let's just jump in. What are they going to find on a fee sheet that they care about?
So on your fees worksheet, you'll see the interest rate. You will see how much cash is needed at closing. You're going to see what the amount is that that lender charges for originating the loan. And that can be different from lender to
Yeah,
lender.
yeah,
They're going to show you if you're going to have like a escrow account with your mortgage where your mortgage pays your taxes and your insurance every time you send in a payment, that goes toward an escrow account. Then they're going to also show you how much money it costs to start that. So it's a
yeah.
breakdown of all of your costs.
Yep, which is huge, right? I mean, everybody wants to know how much is it going to cost me. What's and I think what I appreciate about it is there are kind of two different hits and things that you feel in the real estate transaction, especially as a buyer. You feel the upfront cost, which we'll kind of talk just briefly about today, um, but you also feel like things that get paid at closing. You have a little more time to prep for, and so
Hmm.
the best part about the lender is they're going to let you know about both. They're going to let you see parts of what you need to know up front that's going to happen and parts of what you need to know that's going to happen at closing that you can kind of prep for. The real estate transaction isn't crazy long. I mean, you have probably about a month and a half most of the time, depending on what's
Hmm.
going on when you get under contract. But once you have you know that information, it just helps a lot. So
Yep. Yeah, it helps you feel more secure.
yes,
Like, it'd be really hard to put an offer in on a property if
yes,
you didn't know exactly what that was gonna cost you.
totally, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
when you know exactly what your numbers are, then it makes you more confident when you put your offer in.
Right, it's huge. So it's just it's unbeatable, and knowing your monthly, we always talk about monthly, like
Mhm.
the large numbers are very important, but monthly is just always going to be what you feel. It's going to be the thing that is what every month, how much of your income is going out, and so making sure you're really tuned into that monthly, that you know what that's going to feel like, that your family or you are okay with that is super huge. So um,
Absolutely.
oh, that's super great. Should you shop for your lender though? Like, and if so, what does that process even look like?
So, if you have a great lender that you're communicating with, who's educating you, and the interest rate seems reasonable,
Yeah,
then you don't have to shop for another lender. However, if you're getting any kind of a sense that maybe you could get a better rate, then go ahead and get a couple of estimates from one or two other lenders, and you can compare them. But it's
yeah,
really important to compare them apples to apples. So
yeah.
some lenders will
That's
tell
great.
you that they can do a better interest rate, but they may be charging you on the back end.
Yep,
So
that's good.
again, you want to see that fees worksheet.
Yep,
And one of the numbers you want to pay attention to is called an APR. And what that number is, it's the percentage amount of what it costs to originate and to do the entire loan. So that's a great way for you to
yeah.
shop lenders. So just make sure you're comparing apples to apples.
Yeah, that's a great point, and something that's not easy, like something that you would never
Hmm.
think to do necessarily, because they can sway the numbers
Hmm.
to look differently, and that certainly helps to make sure we're comparing the
Yeah.
same thing to the same thing. That's good.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I think the thing I wanted to make a note of here was, a good realtor is going to have good connections when it comes to
Yes.
lenders. So that's the other thing. Like realtors in your life in the transaction, they're going to be the people who really are your connector. If you
Mhm.
allow them to be, if you want them to be, right? Unless you have people that you already know, which is totally fine. But like a real estate agent is always working with lenders and always finding who's good, and maybe
Mhm.
who has had a couple of those transactions that fall through the cracks because they just couldn't close it in time, right?
Right.
And so your real estate agent should have a list of people that you can reach out to. I know that we do,
Mhm.
and so and these are people that we do significant amounts of our transactions with, right? We actually go so far as to recommend. And so those are people that those are, it's always a good starting point for you. You can always shop outside of that list, but that's a
Right.
really good starting point for you as you're getting going. So I think that's important.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we just love our lenders, and our lenders
Yeah.
have in-house underwriting,
Which is huge. That's
so that's a great
massive.
thing. Mhm.
It's a huge deal
Yeah.
because like y'all, like they are in control of the process. Like they have,
Yep.
from day one to the closing of a loan, like they are in control of that process. And so they can speak for, the timeline for those kinds of things. It's a
Right.
huge advantage that I certainly appreciate versus them having to
Mhm.
wait on third party people to get stuff to go through.
Yeah.
So yeah, we
Yeah,
love that
we
feature.
want lots of guarantees as
Yes.
much as possible in
Yes.
real estate. So too
Yes.
many things are out of control anyway, so we wanna make sure we control the things we can. So having a great lender helps you do that.
Yeah, big time. Yep. All right. So this is a little bit of what I mentioned earlier, which is like your upfront costs. But we also want to jump in just real quick as we're talking about know your numbers as you get into this.
Mhm.
Two things that will come up very quickly once you get under contract. And actually, today's episode is going to be a little bit more of before we get to under contract. Next episode will be about actually the contract, getting under contract, writing an offer, things like that. But we wanted to talk briefly about another fee that you'll feel and that will come directly at you very quickly once you get accepted and you find the house that you want and you get under contract are two things. It's going to be your option fee and your earnest money. So, Mom,
Mhm.
what's an option period and why do I need an option fee?
So an option period is a number of days and it's negotiable. And what that is, it allows you to opt out of the
Yeah.
contract, which is why it's called an option period. So it allows you to opt out. So it can allow you to opt out due to buyer remorse. You just change your
Yeah,
mind.
sure. Yeah.
It can allow you to opt out if you find something during an inspection that is a
Yeah.
deal breaker for you. So typically, we negotiate the number of days that option period would be for. And then we also negotiate the amount that
Yeah.
the buyer is willing to pay the seller. So, for example, you may get like 5 days worth of an option period that you may negotiate with a seller that's going to cost you $250.
Right.
So, that money, what that means is that money goes to the title company, they hold it. But then, if for some reason you decide to opt out of the contract, you receive your earnest money, but the seller would then keep that
Yeah.
option fee.
Sure. Yep.
It's
Yep.
like a payment for the seller taking their house off the market for
Yeah.
those few days that you're under option.
Yeah, it's a dating period. I mean, you're paying for the opportunity to check out the house more
Yeah.
uh, detailed in a much more detailed kind of way. So big advantage there. The other thing that you'll feel as well that this is what we call good faith money is earnest money.
Mhm.
Usually it's 1% of the contract. Of the list price or the offer price. And so that's going to be for 350 k home that's 3,500. And then so on and so on. So that'll come out of pocket immediately once you get under contract. So keep that in mind. Those are the things you'll feel very quickly. And then
Mhm.
we'll talk about this next time. But the inspection would be the next thing you'll feel. So just
Yeah.
things to be aware of. We don't have to go in detail too much this week of those features, but heads up
Mhm.
about that as we're talking about know your numbers. These are the things that are coming your way very quickly. So
Right. And this is the money that you need to make sure that you have.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, yep. All right, cool. And then we'll talk about this a lot more next week or next time we do a video in this particular series of buyer stuff. But the other things to think about are appraisals. You'll have to pay for an appraisal to
Mhm.
be done on the house, and then you'll also have to do get homeowners insurance, and also if you want to, a home warranty. And so we'll go into
Mhm.
much more detail about that next time. But just keep those in mind. Those are the kind of things that you will feel as far as numbers go.
Exactly. Yeah. And inspections, they tend to run $400 to
Yep.
$600. Appraisals are around $500. So, for example, on like a $300,000 home,
Yeah.
if you did a $500 option fee and a 1% earnest money, well, that's $3,500. And then if you did an inspection for about $500, that brings you up to 4,000.
Yep.
And then an appraisal would be about $500 more. So you're looking at about $4,500 that you need to have available when you put in an offer.
Yeah.
Now, keep
And
in
those.
mind that money, right, Jackson, that money goes back to
Yeah.
the buyer as a credit at closing towards
Yeah.
all the cash that you need to bring. So that goes back to you as long as you stay in the contract and
Yep.
close.
Yep. So good things to know. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
we'll talk again. We will talk about the nitty gritty parts of that, the situations where that may not be the case. and what that looks like and all that stuff next week. So keep that in mind. Come back next week if you're really interested about offer
Tune
side of the
in.
process. Yeah, tune
That's
in
right.
again.
Tune in next week for. That's right.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, cool. Well, then that's really that's the numbers part of this process. All right, y'all. So that's knowing
Right.
your numbers. That's how you're going to know your numbers. You're going to find a good lender. You're check in with them and get those fee sheets right. You can shop if you want to. Your realtor may have somebody that they recommend. You can play that however you feel like you need to play that. But once you know your numbers, the next step for you is going to be finding the home. And so, how do we go about finding a home? What are hacks to finding homes in a better way? I know first off, you just want to frankly know your price range. So
Mhm.
how would you know your price range, and what would be deciding factor for maybe if you based on pre-approval, like why would you not go to the max number? Why would you not go to the minimum number? Right.
Right. Great questions. And your amazing lender that you have found will be very helpful with that because your lender is going to tell you how much you can go up to as far as your price when you purchase. They'll also tell you what that monthly payment would be. So, like, you
Yeah.
may get qualified for $400,000, then you're okay to buy at that point. But
Yeah.
you may decide you don't want a $400,000 home payment each
Yeah.
month, so you want to
Yeah.
stick around 300,000.
Yep. Yep.
So your lender, yeah, your lender's going to be the one that helps you with that, and then that helps us to know, or helps your agent to know what price point that we are going to be
Yeah.
looking in
Yep.
that you're comfortable with.
Yep. Yep. Boom. Exactly. And then
Yeah,
once you know your price, since that's kind of a big deciding factor, you're also going to want to jump into identifying your priorities. And so that can
yeah,
be a lot of different things, but basically, what do you need in a house? What are you looking for? I know for a lot of people, honestly, that's just a commute. That's just a better
hmm,
commute time, not having to spend so much of the day driving all the time.
yeah,
But for other people, my mother-in-law, she's incredible. She has a crazy like long commute.
yeah. That's
But
a long commute.
it's a long commute, but she has this beautiful property out in East Texas.
Hmm.
And so in her world, right, she's cool with a longer commute for just a prettier piece of property, right? And,
Yep.
and so and a more secluded for sure piece of property. And so there's a lot of it's just what is important to you where you're at right now. For our families that are watching this, for something that may be important to you, if you're still growing your family, is space. I
Hmm.
know for me, what we just had our first child, and already I realize our house like has too many like narrow entry areas, right? Into spaces. The open house or open
Yeah, it
house,
kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah,
the open
yeah.
concept thing, all of a sudden just became so much more appealing to me, just because then I'm not like we have dogs too, right? I mean, we just it's a packed, it's a packed floor.
It's a
And
zoo.
so yeah, exactly, right. And so all of a sudden I realized, wow, it'd be so nice if we didn't have to deal with, these areas being so small. Not
Mhm.
that we're small or whatever, but anyways, um, point being, all my priorities have changed just in being in this house. And so, what are your priorities right now? What do you want in the next home? What matters to you? Those are the things you want to get real clear on. And I think those could also be design things, right?
Sure.
Those could also include, if you have a certain type of flooring. I know we certainly did because we have dogs, and so for
Mhm.
us, those luxury vinyl planks were really important to us because they are waterproof. Our dogs, when
Right.
they go into the water bowl usually goes with them from wherever they're walking away from. And so it's a
Yeah.
mess.
It kind
And
of
so it's
does, doesn't
helpful. Yeah.
it?
If we had carpet, it'd be horrible. It'd be disgusting, right?
Hmm.
And so this water lets us easily wipe it up and be done. And so
Yep.
lots of different things that could matter to you. So just get real clear on that.
Uh-huh. I think one of the things that we do, when we do our buyer
Yep.
consultations, is we do what are your must-haves,
Yep.
things that are total deal breakers if you don't have it, and then what are the things that are just kind of like extra. They're like wants. You would
Yes,
like to
totally.
have it, you'd
Yeah.
want it, but they're
Yeah.
not deal breakers. And
Yep.
we were talking earlier, Jackson, before we started recording today,
Yeah.
that really the two main things that you really cannot change when you
Okay,
buy a
good.
property
Come on.
is what is it?
Uh, it's location. That's location, location, location,
It
y'all.
is.
Classic real estate agent saying location, location, location. That's a big one. What else? But what's the second one?
Location, and it's also, of course, it's floor plan
Oh, sure.
because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
you can't really
yeah.
change your Floor plan. You can do a few things. It's very expensive to change a floor plan.
Yes.
So yeah, but those are the two biggies.
Yeah. That was the funniest part, y'all, when I was searching for my first home. First, we see this a lot with first time home buyers where they go into it looking for the things
Mhm.
they think are going to be important. Um, and what actually becomes important by the time they're moving to the next spot is not what they thought was important, right? And my
Yeah.
mom was saying that to me when I was buying the house. Where she was like, hey, like, the house is great, but like it's really about the area for it's about the area. And I was like, whatever, whatever, whatever. And then mom, because she's mom, like she's fantastic. She found us like best of both worlds, where we had a great house and we had an incredible area. We just nailed it.
You did. You
Um,
had a great area.
we
Yes.
had an awesome area, and so
Yeah.
we just got lucky on both fronts of that. But um, just know that location really does matter, y'all.
Mhm.
One, for the value of your home, it matters a lot.
Mhm. Yeah.
But two, honestly, like this is a dream of mine someday to figure out how to do this. But like, how can we? People are so nostalgic to the days of knowing their neighbors, right? And
Mm.
knowing the people around in the community. Obviously, HOAs can help with that sometimes when they're connectional in that way. But it's like, how do you help people know like the culture, if that makes sense, of their community
Mhm.
before they get into it, without creeping hardcore on Facebook groups and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, we
I
almost
mean,
we almost need to come up with like a neighbor survey.
well,
you
you
know,
see, and
you know
it's
that
like,
we
yeah,
do.
this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
this is oh my gosh, y'all.
Yeah.
This is my dream world. I think about this all the time. So someday we'll see. But for now, what you need to know is that know your priorities. The location matters a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of in this vein of what we're talking about. HOAs are
Uh-huh.
just, you may like them, you may not like them. Honestly, from our first house, we did move away from a more stringent HOA to a more lenient HOA because that was what was important to us from that place. And so know that know if that matters to you, and if you like an HOA, and if you're cool with an HOA, like know what it gets you, know what
Uh-huh.
you have access to, and know what that looks like. Are you paying?
It's funny.
Uh,
It's kind of funny. It's almost like an HOA is almost a bit of a phase of life thing.
yeah,
So,
sure,
like, when we were younger and
yeah,
raising you, and
yeah,
we had boats and trailers and all
sure,
kinds of stuff, we did not want an HOA.
yeah,
And now that we're not doing all those kinds of
yeah, yeah,
activities,
yeah.
we do want an HOA
That's
because
all right.
we kind of want it to be a more quiet and
Yeah,
well kept kind of neighborhood where
yeah,
somebody's watching over it kind of
that's
thing.
funny.
So
Yeah.
it's funny. It's funny.
Yep. No, because I wanted to be able to. Not that I don't have an RV yet. I'd love to have an RV someday. That
Hmm.
was one of the reasons, for sure. Was like I wanted to be able to have that out. So yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Funny world, life,
And,
life.
the other thing about HOAs is you wanna check out the amenities.
Yeah,
So,
yep,
like, some HOAs have swimming pools and clubhouses and, they can have tennis courts and boat ramps. So, if you're wanting that kind of lifestyle and you wanna meet a lot of neighbors, you're kinda
yeah,
social and you want your kids hanging out with neighbors, those kind of amenities are a great place for all
yeah,
that,
totally.
so
Yep. That's good. All right. And the other thing I was going to say, this is a little more into the nitty gritty, techie side of this whole process, but automate your search, y'all. Like,
yeah.
do not, if you're being serious about finding this home, like, automate your search, make it come to you. A realtor can do that for you. I do think Zillow has a way to do that. I've not played with it
Mhm.
personally, but I think Zillow can do that. Your realtor can pull directly from the multiple listing service, which is what Zillow pulls from to do stuff. So it can send you direct basically from the
Mhm.
second it goes on market. So those things just help, but like go ahead and automate it so that listings are coming to you and you're not having to do the work of going to
Yeah.
find them and
Yeah,
search,
and you want them soon as they
consistently.
come on. That's the other
Yes,
thing is
exactly.
is if you have it automated, you'll see it as soon as it hits
Yep.
because there's still multiple offers going on right now.
Yep.
So,
Totally.
you still wanna be one of the ones to have the first opportunity.
Yep. Yeah. Because time really does matter when it's multiple offers. I mean, time matters in
Mhm.
general, but especially when it's multiple offers.
Yeah.
All right. Drive in the neighborhood. That's a big deal. And
Yes.
that's kind of a level two. Like first time homebuyers usually don't do that unless
Mhm.
their parents are saying do that, right? And
Right.
so, um, level two, home buyer like hack right here is go drive the neighborhood, and specifically go drive the neighborhood at different times, y'all.
Yeah.
Like go check out the neighborhood at morning, afternoon, evening when everybody's home. How busy is it? What does the neighborhood look like? Because if you're going midday, I mean, people might be at work, and you may not really be
Mhm.
getting a good feel for what this area is like. Go on the weekend, go in the weekday. Like, make sure you diversify if you can, if time allows, to go see this all the times, because it'll help you know more about what you're getting into.
Yeah. We've actually had, clients before that, all the showings happened during the day, and so they did not do their driving like we had suggested, and
Right.
so once they moved in on the weekends, there would be, like, 5 huge trucks that were parked, in the
Mm.
street all the time, so things like that. So it's good.
Oh,
Check it out. Just
yeah.
check it out.
Yep. Make sure you see. So yeah, our I was making a joke before we got on the podcast, but like our neighborhood looks wildly different when we have bulk trash week and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, things are just strewn everywhere, kind of thing. You you would never recognize the neighborhood on those weeks of
Mhm.
bulk trash pickup. And so it would have been cool to have known. I think we still would have gone for it because we still like this
Yeah.
area, but it just was like, oh wow, it was kind of surprising the first time. I was like, dang, this is crazy. These
Yeah,
people
there's
got
stuff everywhere.
trash.
Uh-huh.
That's right. The other thing we're going to mention today that I think is a really not well known hack that I hope is valuable for y'all to hear. Off market properties are a thing.
Mhm.
Um, Usually, agents are the ones who have main access to that because agents are telling other agents, "Hey, we have this off market." That's how they're marketing it when they're not putting it on a multiple listing service that Zillow or Redfin or those kind of places you may be looking at are pulling from. And so, make sure if you're not hiring a real estate agent, make sure you're at least knowing one and talking to one, because
Mhm.
this is just something that's really another level and another just set of inventory. Basically, it's a
Mhm.
whole other pool to pull from as far as properties go. So
Yeah, and can really help that you're not competing in multiple offers with certain
yeah,
properties. Off-market properties can help that.
yeah. Yep. All right. And then the next, we're talking about schools. So schools are
Mhm.
important. Now schools are different. Schools have different importance for a lot of people. They care about different things. So athletic programs versus, fine arts programs versus whatever it is, right? And
Mhm.
so today, we're actually going to have in our show notes a file, excuse me, a file for um, gosh, just data as far as this goes. Where's it from, Mom? Remind me.
We've got the 2022 school statistics in the DFW area and the surrounding areas to show you how they compare with.
Yep.
This is related to grades and standings with
Yeah.
it, so it's academic.
Academic. Yeah.
So yeah, if you need to find out something more about like a particular, athletic sport or a club or something like that that your child's interested in, you'll have to really do a little bit more digging, a little more specific
Yeah.
digging, but this will help you with the academia.
Yeah. And we're lucky. I mean, and it's certainly Fort Worth side of town, but Dallas too. I mean, there are pockets. I mean, there's a lot of good schools to pick from. Like our
Yeah.
average school level is a good level,
Mhm.
but obviously it helps to know where the where the higher side of that average is and where the lower side of that average is for sure.
Absolutely.
And then honestly, y'all, this one's not necessarily like a fun thing to mention, but it can be helpful to just go ahead and look at crime rates in the area you're looking in.
Right.
Honestly, checking things like sex offenders and things like that can also just be helpful
Mhm.
to know that information so that you are aware of what's going on in the areas you're in.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, just no surprises.
Yeah.
This is a big investment. For a lot of people, it's their biggest investment
Yep.
that they have. So you just wanna really,
Yeah.
check it all out.
Do your due diligence. Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then kind of our ending point is just what are hacks for how people can see the home, get inside the home to feel it out. What would you say?
So, I would say you need to rely on your agent.
Right.
So, hopefully, you have a great agent who can set up
Yeah.
your showings. So, sometimes we come across people that they really feel like they do better looking on their own and just calling the listing agent
Mhm.
and looking at a house that way. But I can tell you that that's a difficult way to do it. It's hard to
Yeah.
see a lot of properties in one day. It's also hard for you to really get your best recommendations for how to compete
Yeah.
because that listing agent is really there for the listing for the seller. And so you want somebody who's on your side. And so refer to our previous podcast about how to select a realtor
Yeah.
for that information. But yeah, you want to when you're setting, you want your agent to set up some showings. So you want to go look at properties. Your agent will have information for you about each property. They'll have things like a seller's disclosure, all the data, maybe the tax records as well, like the tax rates.
Yeah.
So your agent can find all those kinds of things out for you. And that's the way to rely on your agent as you're looking at and doing showings.
Yep. Yeah. Info that isn't necessarily just put out like on places like Zillow. Age of the roof, unless
Mhm.
it's, some agents are smart when they do this, which is when they'll say, okay, it's a new roof, so you may get information like that, but you still want to know if it doesn't have it in the description, like what's the age of the roof,
Mm.
things like water heater, things like that may be in the seller's disclosure, and so that's
Yep.
helpful for you to know. We mentioned this in our last podcast as well about the how to pick an agent, but just know also, always make sure I mention this any chance this topic comes up. When you are working with a listing agent that's not your agent, just keep in mind that person is not working for you. They do not. The person that they care about is the seller. It's not you. If you tell them what you got pre-approved for your max, you are telling them what they should expect an offer from you to come at, because you've just told them like what you're able to do. So why would they not want you to do the most for their seller, right? Things like that. Just keep that in mind, that like that person is not in your corner; they're in the seller's corner. So always want to make sure we mention that as well.
Hmm.
When it comes
Yeah.
to
And
showing,
then, and keep it, and I was going to say too, when you're looking at properties, the way to kind of do that
yep,
is because you can see, 7 or 8 properties sometimes, depending
yep,
on what you've got going on. If you're a buyer from out of town, you come in, you want to see a bunch of
yeah,
them in 2
and you
days, right?
forget all of them
Yeah,
by
and
the
so
time you're
that can
done.
be really overwhelming. They all
Yep,
run together.
yep,
So just make sure that what I recommend is that you go from one property and then you go to the second property. And at the second property, you and your agent say, okay, which one's better? Which one wins of those two? And if whichever one's first place is the one you take to the next property. And then of the next property, which one wins, that
yep,
one or your third property? And then you kind
yep.
of keep your first place property in mind.
Yeah, the question I love too is like, if your agent asks you this, or if you just want to ask yourself, let's say you give a house like a scale of 1 to 10, let you give it a 6. A really great question to ask also is, what would have made it a 10? What were you
Yeah.
missing? What were the things that it obviously had some level of importance to you, and when they weren't there, it brought you down to a 6 versus at least an 8 or a 9 kind of thing, right? So that's a great question to also help you figure out in that moment, okay, what did I care about? What's important?
Hmm.
Maybe there's something that is important to you that you haven't been able to verbalize yet. Something about something that's in the house or a floor plan, maybe. I mean, lots of different options for that,
Hmm.
but that's good. And then, so that's showings. Open houses is the only other
Well, I
thing
was
we
going to say too, I
oh,
was
good.
going to say with what you just said,
Yep.
Jackson, is that if you answer that question and maybe it's a couple of things that could
Yeah.
easily be remedied,
Yeah.
then your agent could also just kind of help you think about that a little more. Like if you don't like the carpet,
Yeah.
you could get a quick bid
Yeah.
on it would cost, $2,000 to replace this carpet. And so that might make it more reasonable for you. So yeah.
Totally. Yep. Yep. Good. All right, y'all. And then just open houses. That's the other way you can get into a house to see. Usually, that will be a lot of people there as well. A lot of people kind of seeing the house. It's an opportunity to get inside. I do want to just remind you again, that person working the open house is not until you have a signed buyer's contract. Just keep in mind that person isn't working for you. They may be working for the seller. They aren't always, but they're usually working for somebody that's not you until you hired them. So keep that in mind. Just make sure you kind of keep to yourself information that's important for you, especially like y'all people who are renting, who are trying to buy a house. Like, don't tell them when your lease is up, because that tells them urgency. Like if your lease is up in 2 weeks or something like that, they know that you are urgent, and they know that they can
Hmm.
like kind of have you a little bit. So
Hmm.
just keep that in mind, y'all. But open houses are great. Honestly, I love open houses. I do a lot of open houses. I really enjoy them. It's a fun time. Honestly, it's a really fun time to meet neighbors too. It's a cool opportunity because neighbors do come through open houses.
Hmm.
So even if you just go to open house and hang out for maybe 10-15 minutes or something like that, you may catch a neighbor who says, gosh, we just love this area. I mean, I did one this past weekend that was almost all neighbors, which was super fun because you just got to really learn about the area. And I did a whole Instagram post about this, but it just that I was sold on that area because of the neighbors, y'all. Like
Hmm.
the neighbors were selling me. I was the person selling the house, right? Like, and the neighbors were selling me on the area. Like I was like, can I move in? Like, I want to move in now. Like, can I do this? Like, cause it's just awesome. So you may catch some neighbors, which can be kind of that window I mentioned earlier of kind of my dream, which is like the window into the culture of the neighborhood. I do think Facebook groups are a good option for that as well. Facebook pages. I know that a lot of neighborhood associations have that. So
Absolutely.
lots of options, y'all. What else you
Yep.
got, Mom? Anything else?
That's probably the main things before you write up an offer. So that all these steps help you pick,
Yeah.
the house that you're going to want to put an offer in on. And that's the way we recommend that our people think as they're walking through and seeing property and looking for property
Yeah.
is, always ask yourself question, is this the house I want to buy? Could this be the house I want to buy? So
Totally.
that kind of keeps you. Sometimes it kind of gets to where you're looking at houses and after a while you forget a little bit of your purpose. So just
It's
keep it
good.
in mind. Is this the house I want to buy?
Yep.
That
It's
that
good.
helps you.
It's good. All right, y'all. Well, episode 6 in the books. Thanks for sticking with us.
Number 6.
That's right.
On our way to number 10.
It's happening. I mean, we're on our way to what gosh, at least 52 this year because we started the first
52.
week.
Yeah,
So
once a week.
one a week. Yeah, it'd be a good year, y'all. So, anyways, thank y'all for sticking with us. We always love seeing you. As always, if this is something that's helpful for you, we would love for you to like and subscribe. It really does help us just spread this and share it out and hopefully help a lot of people when it comes to DFW real estate. The other thing, y'all, is that any chance you have, like if you know a first-time home buyer, especially this episode right here, this is a great one to just text them and just send them a share link to it and just let them know, hey, this is good information for you to check out, all kind of stuff. So feel free to share it that way. Feel free to like, subscribe. And always, y'all, please comment. Please, please, please,
Yes,
please
yes,
comment.
yes. Yes.
It is so nice to hear what we have the opportunity to, talk to a lot of people in this industry. And so we've heard a lot of y'all who are watching. So first off, thank you for watching. It's so fun to hear that you're watching. But on top of that, y'all just we'd love to see your comments. We'd love to start, conversations in the thread of how you're feeling about real estate in DFW. And, what was your experience as a first-time home buyer? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear. So,
Yeah. And any other hacks? Any other
that'd
hacks
be
that you got
fantastic.
that,
Agents,
that we
anybody
didn't go
watching
over?
this. Yes. Yep. Fantastic. Would love that. All right, y'all. Well, then we're going to sign off today. Thank you again for joining us for Home Sweet Homecast, episode 6. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you soon.